So a couple weeks back, Hytale posted a blog update of Hytale modding strategy and status. It was written by Slikey, the technical director of Hytale. Yeah, we'll just kind of go through this article. I'll kind of give you the TLDR. In the comments down below, let me know any mod ideas you want to make or hopefully see. So right off the bat, they say modding is at the core of Hytale, and that's just off the bat really good. Mods will be server side first. Now what does that mean? So mods in Minecraft are basically essentially client side, meaning they're on your computer, you're the client, right? They say this in the beginning right here, you know, when they talk about client versus server, you know, people only think of server as online, but even in a single player world, the server can be viewed as kind of like the world you're in. So it's kind of, you need to understand it in that regards too. In Minecraft, again, they're all client side. Basically, they only affect your client. Essentially, by making them all server side is, so essentially, if you make an FTB, I'm old, I don't know any new mod pack. If we want to do a crate mod let's play with your friends, right? Something I've tried to do recently with my friends, and usually there's pushback because it's like, it's kind of a pain. It is easier with like other launchers like CurseForge and whatnot, but there is still like a little bit of pushback because it's just like, you got to do something before you can even play the game. By making it server side, basically what you'd be able to do is you just make the server have that mod pack, whatever you want, and then you just give people the server IP and you go, here, play, and they just log in and play, and then they have access to that mod because it's being sent to them via the server. So right off the bat, that just, that's going to open up so many doors. That has cool implications for, you know, the base game and whatnot, just playing by yourself, but it has so many implications for multiplayer games. Like no multiplayer servers are going to be the same, really. There's going to be, like, we'll be able to do some very crazy stuff, these multiplayer servers, with it being server side first. This just seems really cool, and I'm excited to see how it gets implemented, and I hope it works the way I want it to, right? So, and then this is the part where they kind of talk about the reality check of where they're at right now. They say there are gaps in the tools, in our documentation, and the way systems are exposed. He said you will run into limitations due to missing editing capabilities, meaning you might not just be able to make a certain mod because you can't even edit a certain entity the way you want to. For example, maybe you wanted to make a mod where Quebecs are just, there's like a random 10% chance that there can be a giant Quebec, but there could just be like a missing line of code or something in the Quebec data that does not let you change the scale of that model for whatever reasons. But yeah, they said some tools and systems are going to be rough, inconsistent, and painful. Cannot wait to mod in this game, right? and they say in here, they say, hold us responsible for this progress, tag us, reach out, demand answers. Committed to being transparent and telling the truth, even if the truth is it's not good enough yet or we don't know yet, which is awesome. So if you do find something wrong with the game that you think needs to be changed, you could probably just reach out to them on Discord or send them a tweet or whatever, and they'll probably respond. They'll be like, thanks. So that's going to be very fun. I think that's going to build a really strong modding community. And then finally, they say documentation. We are working on a public creator documentation hosted on Gitbook. Them making a public documentation on how to like mod this game is going to be so cool, right? You're really going to just be able to do whatever you want to this game eventually. They're currently not satisfied with the state of modding. That's to be expected. I'm sure they're not very satisfied with the state Hytale is in right now, but that'll kind of push them to, you know, keep making it better. They go over the 4 major content categories. If you're new to modding, this might sound foreign to you. If you've done modding in Minecraft or are aware of modding in Minecraft, you pretty much know all of these already, but we'll kind of go over them real quick. Server plugins, build mini games, economies, commands, custom logic, new asset types, and more. I'm guessing this is going to be even taken a step further in Hytale with kind of all the mods being server side in the first place. You won't be really limited on what you can do. You can pretty much do whatever you want with them being server side. Data assets. Basically, they drive the gameplay behavior and define core mechanics, blocks, items, NPCs, world generation, drops, loot, and all that fun stuff. And then you got art assets, you know, sounds, materials, textures, texture packs, stuff like that. Finally, save files, basically just kind of your own custom worlds and, you know, hopefully adventure maps in the future. And they also say prefabs, which is pretty cool. You might be able to make prefabs, you know, you could just make this grand old treehouse, and instead of just downloading that world, you might just be able to download a prefab version of it, and you might be able to just kind of inject that into your already existing world. So that would be really cool. I doubt that'll be in the beginning, but I think eventually there might be something like that with them kind of splitting up worlds and prefabs as different things. Then they go into the scripting of how to make mods. They say, why are we not adding a text-based scripting? I think when they first initially announced modding in Hytale, Hytale back, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. They did kind of say there was going to be some Lua or their own version of Lua for in-game script writing. There's a popular game developing software called Godot that uses kind of their own internal scripting program called GD Script. That's something that they were going to potentially do here in Hytale, just kind of have their own scripting or Lua-based scripting for making mod. But they're not adding it, actually. And they kind of go over the concepts of why we're not having, another second written language, because you will also be able to just rewrite the game in Java, which programmers can already do. So there really is no point to add a second language like that. So again, what they're going to do is add their own visual scripting. Think Unreal Blueprints. And if you've never used visual scripting before, if it's done right, it can work extremely well. Unreal Blueprints is crazy popular with how easy it is to use while still being able to do high level stuff. And as someone who's done both text and visual scripting, I honestly like visual scripting more. I know that's kind of like a crazy thing to say, but text-based scripting just never stuck with me. And like, I understand there's a lot more you can do with that. But as I'm not like super tech savvy, but not also like super artistry. I'm kind of like a weird mix of both. Any video game project I've done in the past, I've done a couple of game jams with friends and try to make other games myself, and just I've had great success using visual scripts because they're very easy to learn, but you can still do really high level stuff. So I know a lot of people were kind of upset about this, but I think in the long run, I think it's going to be fine. And if they kind of implement the visual scripting from the get-go and have it work directly with the game one-to-one, I don't really see an issue. And it's definitely going to make modding more approachable for sure. And they say they want to avoid fragmenting logic across multiple half languages. What they mean by that is they want the language to just basically just do everything. Tooling available today. So they kind of go over what is going to be hopefully available when the game comes out in a couple months here. And this is really cool. A lot of it seems in-game, and that is going to save development time literally, in the long run, thousands of hours. You're going to be able to make some really cool stuff really fast, and you're going to be able to reiterate on it really fast, rather where in mostly every other modding thing you have to recompile the game every time you want to try it out. And they're going to do a Blockbench plugin. Basically, I wonder how it's going to work. I'm guessing you're going to be able to pretty much use all the textures and 3D models from base Hytale. I think that's what they mean by the plugin. And then you'll be able to make, models, textures, and animations in Blockbench and then kind of post them into your Hytale game very easily. So that'll be very cool. I'm starting to learn Blockbench. I'm not the best 3D modeler in the world, but I think using this kind of new program will definitely kind of help me learn a bit more, and making animations in this is going to be really sweet as well. It definitely will be good for machinimas, which we'll kind of talk about later in probably a different video. Honestly, this is more about modding, but with being able to make custom, models and animations, literally the sky's the limit for, machinimas, right? Machinima tools, they said they actually used the machinima tool to create the trailer back in 2018. So that's really cool. That was a decent looking trailer. They said they'll definitely have technical issues, but they are usable and have delivered great results for us. You will feel rough edges. That is expected at this stage, and intend to fix them with your feedback. And they go short-term improvements. This isn't a roadmap, but it covers kind of the biggest short-term issues they are planning to face for the modding community. First one is shared source server. So again, this is more about the documentation for the assets and the actual server code. And then they plan to release it as soon as they're legally able to. I didn't know there was any laws around that, but that's interesting. We'll have to learn more about that. Basically, once we get access to that, you'll be able to pretty much do whatever you want to a server. Within reason, I think. There's probably some security things that you won't be able to change, but understanding how it works is definitely going to help you make better stuff. And help you debug a lot of stuff, really. Asset pack and mod distribution. There isn't going to be a very clean way to distribute asset packs, mods, all that fun stuff. It's not going to be as easy as just, when you go to a website to download the mod, it's just going to give you like a file, and you just got to drag that file into something. It seems like it's going to be a bit more messier than that, and you may have to drag a couple more files in a couple more folders, especially at the beginning. But I think in the future, it'll definitely be a lot better if they even implement first-party distributions in the game. You might not even have to open up a file folder to install a mod, which would be hopefully the end game for all of this. It seems like it will be. Custom UIs. So right now, and this is something that I'm not disappointed in, but I wanted to make a new UI right from the get-go. And it seems like it might be hard because they currently have 3 different UIs. So they're trying to get rid of 2 of them and just have one big old UI for all their things. So basically that means that if like you're trying to make your own new UI and even like texture packs and stuff, you might think you have changed all the UIs, but you have not. You'll probably boot up the game and you'll be sorely disappointed that you'll realize that the text on that certain screen is using a different UI. So hopefully this will be fixed in the future, but right now they are very upfront and saying it's going to be a pain. Then they talk about stability. This one is simple and painful. There are crashes. Some of them are severe and can cause data loss. Like they put that in bold. Basically is what they're saying is back up your stuff. If you spend a long time modeling something and are just like cutting it somehow into your game, meaning like you don't have a backup of it not in your game, and you launch the game and then your game crashes traumatically and everything in that files are now just broken, that can happen. So just be smart with your stuff. Back it up or save it multiple times in different locations. Like that's common sense, really. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like they're just saying they're not going to be at fault for that. Same with save games. If you are going to be making a forever world, a thing like a forever world didn't really exist when Minecraft first launched. But right now, I think they're kind of saying, hey, take frequent backups of your save games and important creations. They say they're going to set it up eventually automatically, but at this stage, it's not working, right? Or they have not implemented it yet. Finally, for one of their short-term improvements, they talk about first-party server network. Again, not super related to mods, but this is just so interesting to me because obviously Hypixel is known for the Hypixel server, right? So seeing a first-party giant server in Hytale, like I don't know what it'll be called. The Hypixel server probably. The Hytale server, who knows? But they say it won't be in at launch, but basically they want to make a server that brings back a lot of familiar games as well with some new original games, which is cool, which is awesome. And I definitely suspect that there will be a lot of returning games from Minecraft and I mean even like Gmod and all that stuff. But I'm excited to see all the new games that we'll hopefully be able to make with Hytale. And they say they're very honest about how they're going to get, pretty much everyone's going to have the same amount of tools. Like they're not getting any special tools because they're developers. They're giving us all the same tools and they really don't want to like have a monopoly of servers. They're going to give everyone the same tools and be very upfront with all the data they get, and they're not going to be, doing anything that we can't do. They're server owners themselves. Yeah, they say right here, the goal is not to dominate the server landscape or undercut modders and server owners. They're also not diluting venture development, just development for the game. They're going to have their own dedicated team just for making servers, which is going to be awesome. Yeah, and then they finish up with kind of talking about long-term vision for modders. They want new modders to be able to enter game creation without needing any extensive software or years of experience, while experienced modders to be able to still build, complex systems, business, and communities on top of Hytale. They have a little line here that says Hytale wants to blur the line between playing games and creating games. I like that line because what they say is kind of just like with how they want the visual scripting to interact with the game is there might become a time eventually, probably not at launch, probably a little bit further down the road where making a mod involves you kind of still playing in the game, which I think is going to be very, very fun. As someone who's like created video games in the past, it can kind of get boring and tedious. I'm not going to lie. A lot of parts that are unfun about that process, at least for me. So what they say down here is, with visual scripting kind of being the core of their scripting long term, over time they want to bring the visual scripting into the 3D world, being able to link levers, doors, spawners, triggers, and other in-game elements in game. So that's not for your more traditional mods. This is more for like level creation or server minigame making, something like that. And then Slikey ends with closing words. They say, we are very deliberately in early access for modders. The tools are uneven, the documentation is incomplete. Some workflows feel great, others are frustrating. There are crashes and you will lose your work if you do not back up. We are not pretending otherwise. So again, he is very upfront with how incomplete this is. But again, at the end, they say, at the same time, these are the tools they use to build Hytale itself. In many cases, we are building tools and content in parallel with modding in mind. And they said that we know this approach works because it's already producing the game you are seeing. And they said their commitment to us is we will keep improving the modding experience step by step. We'll focus on learnability, onboarding, and the ability to ramp up from beginner to expert. We'll be transparent about what's ready and what's not and what we're prioritizing next. And they said they will listen to us when you tell us where it hurts. And this just seems all super awesome. This was a whole video about, the modding future of Hytale. It was a long video for me talking. Hope this was interesting and informative. And tell me what you think about how the modding is going to be in Hytale, what you're excited for most, what you see for the Hytale modding community in the future, and just any mod ideas that you have or want to see in Hytale. Thanks again for watching. My name is Voidloid. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to stay tuned. This is going to be a different YouTube channel from, I would hope, a lot of other Hytale channels. In the regards that I'm not going to be making a lot of videos, honestly. I'm just going to try to make one decent video a week, just kind of going over my experiences with Hytale. I'm hoping to make really cool mods in Hytale. I'll probably make a video about all my mod ideas. Maybe an occasional Let's Play here and there. But if you are interested in that and you are interested in the future of Hytale, make sure to stick around.